Hello, everyone, and welcome to my office. We are going to go through a video about email deliverability. Now, you're probably watching this video if you're generally interested in marketing, if you want to start a business and figure out how some of these things work, or if you're currently running a business and you want to get more revenues, achieve better results, improve your systems. Maybe you already have some email marketing running and you're running into either not getting all the results you want or wanting to grow and scale your results even further. So this is going to be a brief, simple presentation where we're going to go over email deliverability. Now, brief and simple is a relative concept because we have focused, my co-founders and I have focused on this for years and have at this point developed and invested over $1 million into this sort of technology between myself and my co-founder and our previous business ventures and current business ventures as well. And so what that has allowed us to do is go down into the furthest depths of this ocean and see what is on that ocean floor and come up with insights where at the bottom of the ocean floor there is no light. So we're here to get you at the top of the ocean. You don't need to go all the way down to the bottom. We're going to bring that light. We're going to bring all that information to the light here for you in this very brief video. So by the end of this video, you'll have a clear understanding of the components that you would need to go and optimize and systemize and create and build whatever infrastructure or product around so that you can get the email deliverability results you want. Now, let's go a little bit further about who this video is for, though, first, because you don't do email marketing to B2C. So you don't do that to consumers. You just don't do it. It's not legal. And we like legal and we like excellent and we like things you can do over the long term. So this is going to be for someone who's in B2B and it's services, products, all this applies. So let's go ahead and jump right on in. So I will share my screen and we will begin our journey together. So email deliverability, we already covered it. So let's go right on in. But actually, what is deliverability first? So most people think when they come into the world of digital marketing or business or B2B sales and things like that, you can just send whatever message you want to whatever people, right? The internet's free, ICP, TCP, like all those different protocols. It's open. People have access to the internet. You should be able to contact anybody and do whatever you want. But that's not the case because ultimately this is to protect the people. When the internet was created and over its legacy and lifetime now over the last 20 plus years, what's happened is we've had to develop regulations and protocols that protect people. And why? Because there's spam emails and things like that, people who are trying to phish your information and etc. So there's certain filters that exist on, let's say, Gmail, Outlook, and any other sort of service provider, Proton Mail, or some others. They all have specific AI now that it is AI now that is able to identify, filter, and sort and see information that is being transacted through the channel of email and say, nope, that is spam. Nope, that is not allowed to enter the inbox. Nope. And that's a first key concept for you to understand is you are battling against intelligent AI that has seen truly millions and I'm pretty sure trillions of emails at this point. And so how do you win as the marketer, right? This genius AI, it's like Terminator that's against you and stopping you from getting your message, even if it is a really good message. You could still end up in spam if you don't get some of these next coming things correct. What do? You have to realize that it is what? It is a program. And what do programs ultimately have? What are the characteristics of programs? They are predictable, repeatable. And it's AI, so it can develop and change and alter its parameters based off of new information. But the fundamental components of how the algorithm itself is built are similar. So we are going to go ahead and dive on it. So the initial beginning is you have to realize that every single component of the message matters. There's even things that you don't know yet that we're going to go through that you're going to be like, oh, I had no idea that could affect the email deliverability. Because it's not about doing, let's say, one email campaign and getting one customer and sending 1,000 emails. And then the next email campaign, it all goes to spam and you get no customers. Okay, the goal is that, again, you have a long-term consistent process that can actually grow, expand, scale, and provide a consistent source of money and inflow for your business and create positive customer interactions and build a positive brand image in the market for your company. So it's going to start at your domain. So your domain is, ours is manuka.network, for example. Manuka.network. Why am I being so specific? Manuka.network is a domain. Now, what about manukaai.com or manukanetwork.com or manukanetwork.io? Those are all different domains. Pretty simple. But what happens is in this column, we're going to go through what the average marketer is going to do, or the first person if you're just starting out. And then in this column, we're going to go through what you must do if you really want to have a ridiculously good email system. So most people are going to start with one domain. They're going to have one way and they're actually going to start with, for example, what we did back way many years ago, we did manuka.ai was our address. And so we went out and we added that address on our CRM and on our email. Actually, at the time it was Outlook, and then all those other things, we were using that same domain. So what happened after we started to send email campaigns, because we wanted to reach our customers or our prospects, is that the domain got blacklisted. Because why? We weren't selling anything bad. We were actually seeking to serve the market and had a genuine, clear urge and desire to serve the market with something that was meaningful, aka lead generation, so that we could help businesses grow and so we could learn and develop ourselves as entrepreneurs and marketers. I'm sure that's your similar goal. Now, that doesn't matter in the realm of AI that protects people's email from spam, because ultimately spam is not just someone who's trying to do harm. It is emails that are sent out in mass and don't, let's say, provide an additional layer of quality and protection that the AI and the big tech firms and everybody truly does want. You don't want your email inbox overloaded with spam. There's a level of sophistication that you can achieve as a marketer that allows it's better for everybody. And when you get to that level of sophistication, you're not targeting just anybody and everybody. You're very consistent and focused on who you want. But we're gonna go into all those factors. So the first piece is going to be the domain. So what you could do to optimize it rather than doing one domain is to do numerous domains and never use your primary domain. And that is because it's not Murphy's Law. I'm not a Murphy's Law. Okay, if you acknowledge it and you focus on it, sure. But it's more just, again, the best thing you can do is work from the right principles and the right foundation so that things work over the long term. So when you use multiple domains and you never use your main domain, you have zero risk for your main domain to go down. And that's what you want to protect, is the viability of your company and your brand. So you use numerous domains. And what this is the core foundation for long-term success. Now, the next thing that's going to matter is your address or your sender. So for example, my name is jacob@manuka.network. So if I just use that, just like using one domain, that in and of itself has its own limits at which emails can be sent. Now, the best thing you can do then is use multiple senders. So jacob.v@manuka.network. Again, I would never use our primary domain. I'm just using that as the example. So here is what it would look like. j.vanderstein@manuka.network. jacob.vanderstein@manuka.network. We're going to go into something really brief here. It has to be a real person. You can't create fake people, but you can mix it and match it around. You can do various, we call it spin taxing of these sort of variables, because that's all fine and dandy. We're talking about canned spam compliance. Not actually that hard to comply with, pretty straightforward and simple. That is the thing and this is a key mindset takeaway. So key takeaway number 2 is, guys, anything and everything is overcomable and achievable. So you might run into an obstacle or a barrier at a specific period of time, but it's not the end unless you accept that's the end and embrace and think that is the end. Then it is going to be the end for you and you won't develop on a certain trait or characteristic. But if you just say, this is something that I can learn, I can overcome, and I can grow and I improve, then you will do it. So these are important. So going a little bit further, this has to be a real person. And the best thing you can do for your ultimate result is make that person findable on the internet. And whatever you are going out to sell, it should resonate directly. If someone looks on your LinkedIn, which, by the way, by my data, 93% of people really depend on LinkedIn to determine their purchase behavior in the B2B world, then it needs to resonate. So if your offer is something specific for that you sell, then talk about that on your LinkedIn. Show why you are that credible person, and your response rates will increase significantly. The positive reply rate. It's not just about responses. We'll get into that later. Now, the next thing is the data. So the data is who you are actually targeting. So before we go into a lot of depth about the consumer and the persona themselves, we're just going to focus on the data. Okay, this is another key mindset takeaway 3. When you are going out and you're doing email marketing, you can have 10 million people, but they all have addresses. And those addresses are the channels by which you can contact them. And the channel and the address is the email address. And so something really key to know and a key mindset shift there. So if you go get data just from any and every source, chances are this is through hundreds and hundreds of tests on this, you're going to get 25 to 40% accuracy. Meaning that what happens, okay, here's something to know, is if you send an email and it bounces and it is on your main domain, that is how you go to spam as well. Not just sending crappy emails. Again, all these factors will be talked about, but the quality of the data matters as well. All right. So you have to be specific about the data. And what this is going to do at this point is it's going to give you improved accuracy. But this is not enough. You could go, again, in general, almost all sources are going to be about this accurate. Interesting fact. But then you have to just be specific about the data. And that is going to go further into the quality of the person that you're targeting. But this is not alone enough on the data front. It's just going to give you improved accuracy. It's good to have various sources and to make sure that is targeted and it's tailored to your offer. But the most important thing, flip to the next slide, is after you've gotten that data, you have to clean or validate that data. So most people will go ahead, they'll go ahead and grab the data. They'll set up one domain, they'll set up one sender. They'll go ahead and grab the data from anywhere. They'll copy paste it off someone's profile or something. 25% of 40% of that'll be accurate, and they won't clean or validate it. So if you don't clean or validate it, what happens is you send a ton of bounces, rejects, and etc., which immediately trashes a domain over a given number of emails. So what you must do is then clean and validate it. And so the real freaks like to validate it numerous times. So for example, you're going to be specific about the data that you're going to grab, you're going to clean it, and you might even clean it again. You might even filter it further because there's certain categories and characteristics of ways that email addresses are classified. For example, valid, there's accept alls, there's rejects, there's doesn't exist, and maybe a few variations of each. So sometimes if you're really on your data, you might take your valids and only take your valids, because sometimes even your accept alls can be a little bit hit and miss, even after you've cleaned it. You see how nuanced and small and little this gets? But ultimately, when you understand it and you just apply a consistent process, you will get consistent results. So when you validate it numerous times, the goal is that you get above 99% accuracy. You can get to 99.5, about that range is really great enough, because ultimately, even those cleaners sometimes still can't see if a valid email is inactive or what have you. It's sometimes they're not perfect, but 99% plus is right in there where you want to be, and it is possible. Now, the next thing is going to be systems. So you actually are talking about how things are sent. So the mechanism now. And so most people, what they'll do is they'll use a Gmail, or they'll use an Outlook, or they'll use a contact management system. And there's a key differentiation here. And the Gmail is, okay, for example, what some call, you just go out and BCC a bunch of people. This is really low level. You grab a ton of data, you go to your main Gmail, and then you just say, okay, I'm going to go add everybody into the BCC column, type up a message, and there's no personalization. It's not unique. You're actually also still sending 10,000 or so emails at once. Immediate red flag, trash. Okay, trash forever. Now, from there, the contact management system portion is where if someone says, okay, I'm going to let this specific software that is made for people who are opted in, it's made for newsletter sort of connections. So let's talk like an active campaign or something like that. They use it to go ahead and outreach, and they say, oh, there's a setting on those softwares that says, let Active Campaign manage my email deliverability. Guess what? There's still an address and associated and a tag and an identifier that's associated to that. The value that you get from something like that in the short term is that they do have, because ultimately these are servers. Okay, so there's a server that even your domain, if you go buy it, it exists on a server. And so they have servers that are sending millions and millions of emails. So you get a little bit of insulation, but they, to counter isolate themselves from wrecking their overall domain, which they will never do because they're geniuses about this stuff, people who develop these things, but they're geniuses up to a certain point. They're not, a lot of these systems like Active Campaign aren't designed for cold outreach. And so what they'll do is they'll segregate that. There'll be a sub server. So it becomes basically a sub machine that exists within that server that operates as its own IP, its own variable, its own value connected to that sender, and that itself can be trashed. And they're really tight on that, again, because they're managing, again, 1 million plus emails, and you are just one sender that maybe wants to send 5 to 10,000 emails, and they don't want to trash the rest. So they'll cut you off from that pretty quickly. Your emails will just go to spam. So the best thing you can do then is use specific cold outreach optimized systems. Don't even often use your own CRM. Now that's another layer. Even your CRM is not the best thing that you can use for cold outreach. because it has to be a specific process. You must separate mentally and structurally your lead generation process from your contact management process to your sales process. And so each one of those is distinct and they all have different functions. Lead generation is to generate interest. Your contact management is to develop relationships, and your sales is to close deals. And your sales, where there's another level, sometimes these two things can, let's say the CRM and the contact management system can interact and do similar things, like ActiveCampaign has automations, and so do often many CRMs, but the functions are distinctly separate in the best case scenario. And so how to think about this. Let's say ActiveCampaign has automations, okay, or a contact management system has automations, but you want to use those on a one-to-many basis, whereas your CRM is a very one-to-one basis. Can you do one-to-one and one-to-many in either? Again, we've talked about this. So the focus is keep your contact management system specifically as much as you can one-to-many, and then you can isolate and automate using some of those little features about campaigns to give and feedback data into your CRM so that you can go better one-to-one if that is what your business requires. So now, if you use specific cold outreach optimized systems, they're doing things on the background, IP management, and let's say rotation, warm-ups, which we'll get into in a second, and other sort of variables that, again, are all covered below that will help you to make sure that your cold outreach gets to where it should be, and that's directly in the inbox. So what does this do? It's long-term consistency and protection from human errors and mistakes. That's what this is made to say. Human errors, there's a human error and a mistake. How great is that? So long-term consistency and protection from human errors and mistakes. So next is the warm-up. I touched on it a little bit, but the warm-up process is something that is also not often talked about. So if you're going to go ahead and you have all these systems set up, and you want to go ahead and send emails, and you buy a new domain. In the beginning of a new domain being purchased, that thing is under a watch. That domain is under a watch list, essentially. And that watch list, what it does is it wants you to not come out and just send 1,000 emails day one. You literally, there's a very specific 25 emails day one, 50 emails day two, 60 emails day three, and it scales and scales to the point where after a few weeks of the consistent action and behaviors and also engagement, which we'll talk about, then you get in a more clear zone to the point where you've established a sender history is what it's called. And so most people will just come in and they'll just send it. They'll just hit the button. They'll say, go, I got all the contacts, boom, boom, go. And they'll trash the domain immediately. The best of the best do an extensive long-term warm-up. And even after they've done the warm-up process, they're still warming up. They're still doing certain actions that are protecting the long-term viability of the channel. Now, next thing, copywriting. So I talk about, to be specific, your copywriting is the actual message that is being sent out to the person. So the average person, the first experience, of a marketer is they come in and they just write everything that they think the person needs to hear all the way in the lead generation process. It's like they want to close the deal in the first segment. Or it's just shady. It's not, it's just not quality. And then therefore you're going to end up with spam. You're using words like cash now, money, those buzzwords. Those are also words. Copywriting those words, there's also spam words that will get you detected. So even if you did all this right and you just had a bunch of spam words, bam, okay? So these things matter. What we found over thousands of interactions and engagements campaigns, clear, compelling, simple copywriting. I promise. I absolutely promise. You could send a message this big and it won't work, okay? It just won't work. It just won't work, okay? So clear, compelling, simple copywriting, even down to a single line to get interest. Because all you want to do is after you've done all these steps, you just want to say, I'm not dependent on everybody saying yes. Key marketer mindset takeaway 4. You don't need everyone to say yes. Acknowledge that there are KPIs and things, the data that will just shake out in a certain way. But you want these people to go one of two ways. Either they're not interested or they're interested. That's it. Okay. And what this does is significantly improves engagement and positive replies, which we will go into next. And it properly sets up for the rest of your sales process, because if you've early established a need, so key takeaway 5 here, establish a need right away in your lead generation. So if you can use lead generation as a way to determine where the needs are, okay, is there a need? That is simple, straightforward. If your product or service solves a problem, does the person you are talking to have a need for it? If you establish that in your lead generation process, you have now set your sales process up for success in 5 words. Do you need X? Are you experiencing the problem of Y? Let me know if you're interested. We can chat for something like that. Okay. I've actually made a video on this, on that separate topic. Let's continue. So the next piece is, so we've done some really clear, compelling, simple copywriting. But most people, what they're going to do is they're just going to do 1 to 2 variations. So they might have 2 or 3, maybe even 60, okay, campaigns that send the same message. So they might have 60 different campaigns that are iterations or variations or different targeting groups, but they never change the message. And in fact, it's too hard, I promise you, to go in and regularly change the message by yourself or to assign somebody to do it. It's just a worthless waste of time, because what's going to happen is that someone's going to be sick one day, and then all of a sudden the message isn't going to change and you're going to go to spam. And then you're done with that. You have to restart the whole process over again. So the best of the best, go to a really in-depth level. Because, by the way, just to say, so let's say you sent 10,000 emails of the exact same message. The spam filters go, wait, I've seen that message way too many times. It is a repeated, simple, automated message that doesn't have any value. Even if again, you're solving world hunger, it still would go to spam. Okay, so the best of the best are able to do specific things to get thousands and thousands of variations of their emails. Now, that doesn't need to be a process that takes thousands of hours. So that just requires a certain way of thinking, a certain way of doing things, okay, and certain technologies. So from there, what does that give you? It gives you permanent protection from spam filter detection through elimination of unifying factors. So we call those unifying factors, again, are using the same words in the same segments in the same ways to the same people, same type. Those are unifying factors. Is the address the same? Is all those things we've addressed above. So by eliminating those unifying factors, you become invisible. Your messages become invisible to the spam filters and in your prospects and customers' inboxes. So the next is going to be results. So if you go out and you do everything here in the left column, chances are you're going to get about, and this would be in the beginning, because after a certain time, your domain will just get shut down. You're going to get about a 5 to 10% open rate. Sometimes it's better, but this is just on average of what we've seen. A less than 1% engagement rate, because chances are it's just going to start going to spam, and less than 2% of people, according to the internet data, read their spam. And so all of a sudden, now you've just eliminated 98% of your potential prospects, and you're burning data, and you're trashing what your brand means just by sending a ton of worthless emails because they go to spam and no one ever sees them. Or people unsubscribe from them or things like that, because then now you've burnt it and you can't contact that person again, or else it's violation of can't spam. So let's go further here. Now we're talking about, because what we really want is these positive replies. So if you get less than a 1% engagement rate, that's like someone, let's say, clicking on something. Then the chances are you're going to get like a less than 5% reply rate. And so what that means is, this is also data that we found, if you are just doing these low quality emails, chances are your positive reply rate is going to be about 1.1%. There's a point here. Yes, 0.1%. So about 80% are going to be negative, unless you have a really good offer, like a really compelling, clear offer. Then that math might change, but this is just the average. It's super, very low. All right. Now, next, if you do all of the above here in the middle column, you can get 20 to 40% open rates or more. It could be higher, it could be lower, but you're going to start dialing in consistency because people are seeing it. You're giving yourself the other 98% of people that could see your email and engage with it. You're giving them the chance to really take that information in. And if you're getting a 6% engagement rate, so people are clicking on it, sharing it, or what have you, you're going to get about a 3%. This would be a really good offer, a 3% reply rate and a 1.2% about positive reply rate. So now you haven't just achieved a 1% positive reply rate, you've 12x'd what the average person is going to do. And those are realistic, attainable numbers. And what does this mean? It means real money, baby. That's what it means. It means you've beaten the path to your door. You've already laid the path to your door. Like they say, build a better mousetrap, old saying, build a better mousetrap, and the world will beat down your door, the path to your door to get to you to buy that thing. But it's not true. Okay, definitely not true. And so what this means is you've now laid that path for people to get to you because you went and started it for them and you really got to them. That's when you can solve problems, because even if you solve the greatest problem in the world and you're in this area, your success is just going to be like not impressive. But if you're here and you're doing something that even just solves a moderate problem that there is a need in the market and people have a desire for it as well, you're still going to have real money coming in that you can predictably and scalably rely on and happy customers, which is what we're all here for. Now, from there, scaling. So the person in the left column, first-time marketer, is going to they're going to see this information and they're going to be like, okay, I got it. So all I need to do is just send more. Okay. And what that's going to do, they're going to attempt to scale aggressively while repeating the errors over and over again. So they're going to do all these things wrong. And then they're going to be like, wait a second. So I've sent 10,000 emails. Why am I getting less than a 0.1% positive reply rate? Because ultimately now your domain's blacklisted and nobody's reading it at all because they can't perceive it. Right. So they'll attempt to scale aggressively while repeating the same errors over and over again. Now, the person in the middle column, the intelligent marketer, we'll call it, scales intelligently and programmatically, always executing every step in repose. So repose means without thought, without error, without judgment. It's just imagine a Zen master or a samurai practicing with his blade, or if you've ever seen Ip Man or those Chinese kung fu movies, repose. Let's say Bruce Lee, he moved in repose. It means without effort. It means like water, my friend. That is what the best marketers and the best people do. What does this mean? A lifetime delivery channel, because guys, it's about getting that long-term success, compound interest every single day. So that's the big process, all step by step on email deliverability. You can go ahead and chart this course all by your own right now. And I do have a series called the Lead Generation First Principles, where it'll go more into, once you've got, this is specific about a channel, but lead generation principles are specific about any type of channel that go in more in depth about what really gets it done and what makes an offer resonate with the market, achieve great results, and become scalable. So go ahead and apply this information, and I'll see you in the next video.